No missiles were launched. No sanctions were announced. No emergency meetings were broadcast on live television. Yet quietly, one of the largest economic power shifts of the decade took place. Over $400 billion in value slowly slipped through America's fingers, not because of war, but because of a metal most people stopped paying attention to: silver. For decades, silver was treated like gold's weaker cousin, something you stored in vaults or turned into jewelry. But today silver has become something far more dangerous: a strategic weapon. And while the United States was distracted, China moved first, securing control where it mattered most. This is the story of how silver became a geopolitical lever and how America paid the price without even realizing it. To understand how this happened, we need to unlearn what we think we know about silver. For most of modern history, silver was seen as a monetary metal or an inflation hedge. Important, yes, but not essential. Policymakers didn't lose sleep over it. Investors treated it as a secondary asset. Governments assumed markets would always supply it when needed. But the world changed. Quietly and rapidly, silver became embedded in the foundations of modern life. Every solar panel relies on silver for conductivity. Every electric vehicle uses silver in its power systems. Advanced medical equipment, data centers, 5G infrastructure, and precision military hardware all depend on silver's unique properties. There is no cheap substitute that performs the same function at the same scale, and that's where the danger begins. As the world pushed toward electrification and clean energy, demand for silver exploded. At the same time, silver mining failed to keep up. New mines take years, sometimes decades, to develop. Environmental regulations tightened. Ore grades declined. The result was a structural supply deficit. In simple terms, the world started using more silver than it could produce. This wasn't a temporary shortage, it was a long-term imbalance. And in markets like this, power doesn't belong to who owns the most money. It belongs to who controls the bottlenecks. China understood this before anyone else. While the United States treated silver as just another commodity, China treated it as a strategic input. Instead of focusing only on mining, China focused on refining, processing, and industrial integration. This is a crucial distinction. Mining gets attention, but refining is where control lies. You can have raw materials in the ground, but if you can't process them at scale, you're dependent on someone who can. China invested heavily in silver refining capacity, manufacturing ecosystems, and long-term industrial planning. Over time, it embedded silver deep into its domestic supply chains, especially solar manufacturing, electronics, and advanced technology. This is what people mean when they say China weaponized silver. Not bombs. Not bullets. Leverage. When a single country absorbs massive amounts of supply, controls processing, and dominates end-use manufacturing, it gains pricing power and strategic influence. It doesn't have to announce restrictions to affect the market. Just by prioritizing domestic demand and tightening export flows, it can squeeze global availability. Prices rise. Lead times extend. And countries dependent on open markets, like the United States, feel the pressure first. America's mistake wasn't ignorance, it was assumption. The assumption that global markets would always remain neutral. That supply chains would stay frictionless. That strategic materials would never be used as leverage in a world of rising geopolitical competition. While China planned decades ahead, the US relied on short-term efficiency and just-in-time supply chains. That works until it doesn't. Now we arrive at the question everyone asks. Where does the $420 billion loss come from? This wasn't a single transaction. No check was written. No headline announced it. The loss accumulated silently, year after year, across industries. Higher silver prices increased the cost of manufacturing solar panels, electric vehicles, electronics, and defense systems. Projects became more expensive. Some were delayed. Others were canceled. Companies passed costs to consumers or lost competitiveness globally. Defense procurement budgets stretched thinner. Clean energy transition slowed. Each individual cost looked manageable, but together, they formed a massive economic drain. There's also opportunity cost. While China strengthened its industrial dominance, the US lost ground in key sectors. Manufacturing leadership shifted, market share eroded. Future revenue streams moved offshore. When analysts estimate hundreds of billions in losses, they're measuring not just higher prices but lost growth, lost resilience, and lost strategic flexibility. It's death by 1,000 cuts, not a single blow. And the most dangerous part? This can happen again. Silver is not unique. It's a warning. The 21st century isn't defined by who has the biggest army, it's defined by who controls critical inputs. Rare earths, lithium, copper, advanced materials. The battlefield is the supply chain. The weapons are export controls, industrial policy, and long-term planning. And the casualties are economic, not military. This isn't about blaming China. From a strategic perspective, China did what every rising power does. It identified a vulnerability and acted. The real question is whether the United States learns from this moment. Recognizing silver as a critical material was a start, but recognition without action changes nothing. Rebuilding refining capacity, securing supply chains, and thinking strategically about materials isn't optional anymore. It's survival in a competitive world. Because the next economic weapon won't arrive with sirens or speeches. It will already be embedded in your infrastructure, your technology, and your economy. Silver was just the first reminder. And the real cost isn't $420 billion. It's the lesson learned too late. If you want to understand the future of power, don't watch the battlefield. Watch the supply chain.